What's up, world? Good to see all of you guys. Happy Tuesday. I hope you're enjoying your week. It's been, I'm gonna be real, it's been a bit of a struggle these days. We've been going through a lot as a country and as a people, and but I hope this brings you guys some happiness. Welcome on. This is Tuesday Tea Time with your guy Ikitami, and today I have the wonderful pleasure of hanging out with the wonderful, smart, professional, amazing, and single Dr. Courtney Ray. Before she comes on today, I just wanted to share a few things. Number one, thank you everybody for checking in with us last week on that living room sessions. We had a blast together. I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. It was real nice being able to hang out and catch up with different praise teams from around Southern SoCal and having all those presenters talk about some meaningful things. I hope you took some stuff away from it. I did. So really just thank you so much for having that time with us. Next week, our guest is Jacqueline Jewell. For those of you who may not know her, she is an artist who lives in the Central California area, doing phenomenal things, great music, just doing some creative, good, positive vibes. So we're going to spend some time talking with her, obviously catching up with her life and talking about music and art and faith. So make sure you check in. With no further ado, I'm really excited to get into today. So we're going to be catching up with our girl, Dr. Courtney Ray.
Right.
Yeah. Dr. Courtney Ray. What's up, Courtney? How are you?
I'm good, Icky. How are you?
Good, good,
Good to
good,
see
good.
you, man.
How is the weather out there?
Well, it's spring, so that means that we have 60 and 70-degree weather. I know that for
Mm,
you guys out on the West Coast, that's like winter time.
it really is.
But
It really is.
here it is springtime,
The
and
great New
you
York spring
got a
times.
jacket and a sweater.
Thanks everyone for joining us today. As you're coming on, I am hanging out with Courtney Ray. PhD, MDiv, LP, all of those alphabets. She's got a lot of alphabets in her title. Clinical neuropsychology is her field, and we're going to just talk today about all kinds of stuff: mental health, our situation, the world we live in today, race relations, being a professional female African American in this crazy country of ours, and faith. So hang out with us. It's going to be great. Share the vid. Maybe just start up a group party. And as you are commenting along, I promise I'll do my job to throw it up so that everyone can catch up with us. Courtney, tell me, what are you drinking today?
I am drinking lemonade. Nothing fancy. Sorry, it is what it is. That's what I got.
Is it homemade lemonade?
No, it most certainly is not. It might be. It might have been made at a home somewhere, but not this home.
Just not this home, huh?
Not this home at all.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Hey, listen, today I'm drinking water. The
Oh,
classic.
really? In
Yeah.
that fancy
In that,
fancy receptacle you got?
in this little fancy doohickey right here, man. Just plain old water. Mm. Granted, it's usually got
Cute,
something a
cute,
little bit
cute.
stronger, but that's for another day. Amen. Praise the Lord. So let's talk. How about first? Let's just take a quick mention about Blackout Tuesday. Can you? Somebody's watching along, thinking like, why are all of these photos black on the screen here? Can you just give us a sense of what this is, what meaning this has?
Yeah, so I'm sure, unless you've been under a rock or on another planet, maybe, you have probably heard about the protests that have been going on
Absolutely.
surrounding George Floyd's murder from last week.
Mm,
And so a lot of people have been protesting and have been trying to have solidarity and show that they are really supportive of the movement for Black Lives Matter And so there have been a few different things that have happened online recently. Um, just a couple days ago, or I think it was Monday. It was either Sunday or Monday.
Yeah.
Some employees from Facebook kind of like all took the day off and they were just like, peace out, because they were kind of protesting some things that Facebook they felt should have been doing in terms of censoring some words um, or some posts that were inflammatory
Hmm.
and kind of riled up sort of some of the tensions that are already ignited. Um,
Yeah.
some of those things were from the president. Um, and then also there were some musicians who and music producers who said, you know what, we need to kind of show some solidarity here and have everybody who is in the music industry not put out any music for this next period of time because a lot of our music is just surrounded in the culture of Black lives and Black culture here in America, and so that profit from our lives is one
Yeah.
that they felt like, hey, we need to be in solidarity with people who are going through or most affected by just what's going on. So they decided that they weren't going to um, put out any new music for this entire week. And so other people kind of picked that up and they were like, hey, let's follow that lead by not being on social media, and we'll put a black square kind of in solidarity. There's actually a little bit of controversy about
There
that,
is, isn't there?
actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the thing is that if you're on Instagram and you put a hashtag for something, it will, anytime anybody clicks on that hashtag, it'll show like
The most
a
recent,
listing of all
all
the
the
things that are
stuff.
using that hashtag. Right.
Right.
And so Black Lives Matter and hashtag BLM have these have protests and information and news about what's going on. And so they try to make sure that everybody gets enough information. And so when people started making these black squares tagged with BLM or tagged with Black Lives Matter, now when you go to the hashtag Black Lives Matter, you don't really get all that news and information that you used to get. You
Yeah.
get just a bunch
A
of
bunch
black
of
squares.
black
So
squares.
a lot
Yeah.
of, yeah, yeah, yeah. So a lot of people were just kind of like, this is counterproductive because it's sort of
Yeah.
silencing the source of information that a lot of people are used to
Yeah.
when they go to like click on that hashtag.
Yeah.
So, you know, a lot of people were saying, well, if you want to still do the black square, go ahead and change your profile to a black square, but don't hashtag Black
Right.
Lives Matter, don't hashtag BLM because you're clogging up that hashtag
Yeah.
channel.
And it's not that the Black Lives Matter social media page is the only place that you would get information
Right,
for informative things that are happening in the black community and powerful protests, but it is a source by which many do.
right.
So if we drown out
Yeah,
all of that with black squares, then you're not really helping the cause because people
right,
are not getting the information they need to get.
right.
So if you're checking in, we're with Dr. Courtney Ray. Thank you, everybody, for popping on here. Miss Hattie says good afternoon. We want to say good afternoon to you, too. Please feel free to drop in questions and comments as we're going along. And Courtney might have answers for you. She's pretty smart. Courtney, you've got an MDiv and a PhD in clinical neuropsychology. So an MDiv is something someone gets because they want to teach the Bible. A clinical neuropsychology PhD is something someone gets because they're a genius. So, that's a very wide range of things happening here. Tell us why these two different degrees. How did that come about?
Well, so as you know, we both worked at the same conference for a number of years.
Yeah, we did.
So I was in ministry in Southern California conference where you are right now,
Yep.
and even before that, I was in Central California conference in Allegheny East. So I've been pastoring for almost 2 decades, which is so crazy. But I'm not that old.
Your
It was
old
like I
lady.
started when
Old lady.
I was a baby. I was a baby.
That's true. You were a baby.
But yeah, so as I I was working with people just in the congregation and people in the community, one of the things that I saw was that a lot of people had a lot of mental health issues, a lot of issues that were very significant and needed someone who was a professional to talk to them about. And I actually, when I was in seminary, I don't know, a lot of people actually don't know this, but when I was in, so you're getting a hot tip.
Ooh, like I'm ready. The people
When I
want to
was in
know.
seminary, I did a concentration in counseling. And so I took kind of all the classes that were offered. Like you could have done like emphasis, like some people did emphasis in youth ministry. So there were different emphases that you could do. And so I did my emphasis in counseling, and I took all the elective stuff for counseling at the seminary. But even that wasn't significant enough to deal with some of the major issues that people have, because pastoral counseling is very limited in its scope. And I knew that people needed something that was a little bit more specialized. So, you can try to get people to go to a mental health counselor, and you can refer them to a psychotherapist. But a lot of people don't trust that.
Right.
So, and it's just like, listen, if they're not going to go, then I'm going to have to be kind of that person. And so I went to Loma Linda and I got my PhD. And at the time, for those of you who were in Southern California Conference, Dr. Dr. Tony Anthony, why am I blanking out on his name?
Hey, Doc, if you're watching, she has no idea who you are.
No.
She forgot.
No, he passed away. He was my ministerial director for a long time.
Got it.
And one of the things that he wanted to make sure that we did was that all of us who were in ministry really had the opportunity to do what we needed to do to gain skills to be better ministers. And he really was a great encouragement to me to really go and pursue that. And I was just really grateful to him. And so the crazy thing is that in doing that at Loma Linda, it was a great opportunity. I didn't really know what neuropsychology was when I went to Loma Linda, but after I did, I was like, oh, it combines some of my favorite things, which are helping people in counseling, and also science and biology. And so I said, oh, you know what? This is something that I can do. And I wound up pursuing that. And why are you laughing?
Who accidentally trips into clinical neuropsychology? That's awesome. By the way, as you're talking, Sarah Grover popped on and said, "You're awesome, Courtney." You know Sarah?
Yeah. What's up? That is hilarious. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is, man. So I wound up doing that, and it was good. It was something that I really liked. I really felt like I could help people. Now I'm here on the East Coast. I started my own practice.
Started your own practice. Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean,
was that a lot of work to start something on your own like that?
It is, yeah. But I really wanted to be able to do the things that I wanted to do. So if you go to www.apamind, so A like apple, P like Paul, A like apple, and mind like your brain, that's my website. It stands for Array Psychological Assessments. So I do assessments for people who have across the lifespan, so children all the way up to elderly people. And then I also do things where I try to get people who are in churches, church leaders, pastors, and teach them about mental health and teach them how to start a mental health ministry where they are. That was kind of my initial impetus, right? And so that's what I do now. So, since I am not with the conference anymore, if you want me to come out, you're gonna have to pay me this time, Nikki, to come to come help you.
Somebody donate. Somebody's watching today. I know you want to donate to help us do this.
But yeah, so we It's been a really interesting few years,
Yeah.
and COVID and everything like that. We've been doing telehealth instead of face to face, and I'm also still doing like some pro bono work with people who are affected by COVID, and
Wow.
like especially front
So we're
and
gonna be
also
we're gonna get into a lot of that right here
we're
today.
gonna talk we're gonna talk about that later.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're gonna get into that, ladies and gentlemen. If you are checking in, we are with the wonderful Dr. Courtney Ray, and we're spending some time across from East Coast, from each coasts, and yeah, we'll zoom you in. Somebody say, yeah, just zoom her in. It's cheaper. We're talking about life and professional mental health, all of the above. And check in if you'd love to. Just drop us a quick comment or note or question for Doc, and we'll field it to her, and she'll get a chance to answer, and we'll see how good she really is. Because she was moonlighting. That's what I'm hearing, Courtney. You were moonlighting on your pastoral degree with your psychology. I see what you did there. You're like, I took all these
Not
electives.
Not so. Like I said, Dr. Kelly is his
Dr.
name.
Kelly.
Dr.
Yeah,
Kelly
Mike
is
Kelly.
like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Dr. Mike Kelly,
he
amazing guy.
brilliant
Yeah.
man. Actually, a lot of people don't know that when he was, because he passed away from cancer, if
Yeah, he
you
did.
remember, while he had already gotten his DMin, and he was actually in the midst of doing a second doctoral degree, so a
Wow.
PhD degree himself. So he's a brilliant man
Yeah,
in
he's a
and of
brain.
itself, you know. So he was, like I said, very encouraging. Was like, girl, do what you need to do.
Mm, mm.
And because the other thing is that when you feel called to do something
Yeah.
in ministry, it's really important to just follow that,
Yeah.
and being able to fill a niche that isn't necessarily there. And as we see now, like,
Yeah.
especially when I first started, a lot of people didn't really understand, like, what's the connection between ministry and psychology. And to
Right.
me, it was always really clear, but a lot of people, I don't think, really understood the magnitude of why ministry is so connected to
Right.
mental health and psychological well-being and things like that, you know.
That is
So
that is interesting because so often people look at pastors as if they are counselors, as if they are professionals in this particular area, and really we're not. And I think that the churches in overall will do better. The church in general will do better if we equipped our peoples correctly, because ministry is much broader than just being able to preach a sermon or what you're doing is fantastic, fantastic work. So Dr. Michael Kelly was the one of the directors of a local group of churches here in Southern California, and was Courtney, that was your boss as well, as you said, your advisor or
Anthony
director.
Kelly, Anthony Kelly.
Anthony Kelly, not Michael Kelly. Sorry,
Yeah, different Kelly.
different Kelly, different Kelly.
No, Dr. Anthony Kelly.
Dr.
Yeah.
Anthony Kelly, good man, good man. Had a lot to offer the world, and yeah, so we continue to push forward. So, why did you? Because we look at you now, right, and you are well put together. You're doing your thing. You've opened up a private practice. By the way, if you're watching out there and you're sitting on your couch wondering if you can do it, you can do it. Get
That's
up,
right.
get
100%.
moving. Tell us, were you thinking about this in high school? I mean, so we know that you, from your journey from your MDiv over to your PhD, you've connected that for us. But what about growing up? What drew you in? Was it high school? Was it elementary? Did God always put this thing on your heart?
Well, if you had asked me when I was growing up, all throughout like elementary school, all the way up, I actually found like a journal about
Uh-huh.
what I wanted to do. I wanted to be an author, I wanted to be a teacher, and I wanted to be a doctor.
Mm.
And specifically, I wanted to be a foot doctor, like a podiatrist. I don't know, but that's what for the longest time, if you had asked me, I would have said I wanted to be a podiatrist. But when I got to high school, so I didn't grow up Adventist. My
Ah,
family was Christian, but non-denominational Christian,
got it.
and I went to Adventist school. And when I went to Adventist school, my sister in Christ, Amanda Roberts, she was in my class, and she invited me to come to church with her. And her parents would bring me to church every Sabbath. And
Wow.
so they're my parents too. So the Roberts, if you're watching, you know that you're my parents. That my mom
Yeah.
and dad. And they came to my ordination, and I like for real. And they really were very inspirational in helping me in my spiritual growth. And when I went to high school, one of the things that I kind of saw was that young people in particular
Yeah.
were not really engaged. People who grew up in the faith didn't really feel connected
Mm.
to the faith. It was kind of like a nominal thing. And so I was like, well, I should kind of be the change that I want to see in the world, you know?
Ooh, I
So
like that.
that was that. And so I went over to, and I did ministry, or I did theology in undergrad, and I still was pre-med.
Where did you
And
do your undergrad theology at?
Andrews.
Andrews.
And,
Okay.
yeah, so I still pre-med, but I was theology, and I did a double major in psychology.
Mm.
So I did both of those things at the same time. And when I, went, I left after a year to kind of take some time. Left after a year after graduation. I didn't go straight to seminary, is what I'm
Right.
saying. So I finished undergrad, came back to New York. I spent a year here teaching science and math in
Nice.
public schools here in the Bronx, where I'm from. And then I went back to seminary. And being in seminary was cool. I enjoyed it. I wasn't sponsored, so that meant that I had to pay my own to
Ooh,
to
girl,
go.
get it. Paid your own way.
I had to pay my own way to go.
Mercy.
And then I wound up going to one of my friends was saying, "Hey, there's going to be this Net 2004 with Walter Pearson at this Church Miracle Temple in Baltimore."
Right.
And so they asked, "Hey, do you want to be part of the Bible working team?" And I was like, "Hey, why not? I'm not doing anything else." After I graduated from seminary, I was just kind of like twiddling my thumbs. So I went out there. And it was crazy too, because I had sent my resume to different places. And actually, so this is, clearly almost 20 years ago, 15
Right.
years ago.
You were like 12 at the
So
time.
we still had answering machines and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So technology was not what it is now.
No,
So
not even
I sent out
close.
like hand copies, hard copies of my my resume to like different conferences and stuff. Like that is so old school now, right? Um, and it was interesting because I got people who called me back because they're like, and I actually still, if I probably have that answer machine someplace. There was someone who left a message. I'm not going to name what conference, but they left a message. They were like, "Oh, wow, we're really impressed by your resume, da 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 da
Okay.
da, all this other kind of
Okay.
stuff." Like, a lot of experience, because every year that I was an undergrad, I worked with like a Bible working team, and I did like
Right.
a different evangelistic series and all these different things. And they were just like super like excited. They're like, "Yeah, we want to talk to you." And then I called them, and they're like, "Oh, so you're a female?"
Oh,
And
snap.
like, "Well, actually, we
Snap.
don't hire women." And I was just kind of like, "Wow, that's
Wow.
real jacked up."
Yeah.
So, 'cause my name, Courtney, like, I know a lot of guys named Courtney, so it's a very
True.
unisex name. So they had like they didn't know that I was a woman, So that was
That
really
resume was killing though.
interesting.
That resume was like bang, bang for that buck.
Apparently,
Oh, you're a girl?
but
Oh, okay.
huh?
I said, oh, but you're a girl. Oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly. So I wound up being I went and I did this evangelistic series at Miracle Temple, and my good friend Alex Royce, who was associate pastor there at the
Alex
time,
Royce, yeah.
and we just were talking, and he was like, "Hey, we need someone to do youth ministry here, and hey, do you want to kind of do that?" And I talked to the senior pastor, Freddie Russell, and wound up
Boom.
being there in Miracle Temple. That's how I wound up being there for almost 3 years. And then after that, I went to California, to
West
Central
Coast.
California. Yeah. And then from the Central California Conference, wound up going down to Southern, where you were. And that's how we met. So
That is how we
now you
met.
have my life story all the way up until the time you and I met.
I'm caught up now, man. I'm fully in the know now. That's awesome. Oh my goodness, what a journey! Because when you arrived here, we started becoming friends and peers, co-workers in the area of ministry. I've always really just enjoyed your time, Courtney. I thought you've always been bright, you've been smart, you've been thoughtful,
Hey.
critical thinker, and so yeah. But I had no idea where in the world you came from. Like, you just hanging out. Look on your screen. Have you seen the Facebook? Have you looked on your Facebook feed there?
Oh,
I threw up a little something there while you were talking, just to let people know what Courtney Ray looked like as a high school student. You
that's
see that?
hilarious.
This was the pre-doctor days. This was before it all.
Yes,
So
you are
so
funny. You just sneak in there.
Yeah, yeah, I tend to do that. So you let me ask you a question. In your mind, in this picture, did you have any idea what God had in store for your life? Did you have any clue that this was?
I always believed that God wanted me to do something,
Yeah.
not necessarily what that would look like. So,
Mm,
it it's interesting because even at the time when I was contemplating doing my doctorate,
mm-hmm.
I was like, because by that time I had already been in ministry for several years, right?
Right. Right.
And I had always, I had always been the youngest person in my class by a little bit. And so when I finally decided, oh, I wanted to go get my doctorate, it had been quite a while out. It had been like maybe I was in ministry for maybe a decade or so.
Wow.
So I was like, man, if I go back to school now, I'm going to be number one of the oldest people in class. And number two, like by the time I end, I'm going to be, however old.
Right.
And so my friend, I was talking about this with my friend. I'm like, man, I'm going to be this age if it's going to take 5 or 6 years to do this program. I don't know if I should even do it. And my friend was like, well, if it's going to take 5 or 6 years and you want to do this program, you're going to be 5 or 6 years older in 5 or 6 years either way.
Anyhow. Yeah.
So you could be 5 or 6 years older with a PhD or without one. So which one you want? And I'm like, well, you kind of put it that way, it makes sense. It's
Right.
like that time's gonna pass either way.
Yeah.
Do I want to do what I want to do or do I not?
Truth.
So
Truth. And look
like
at
I
you
said,
now.
so even then, I didn't know.
And how long have you? How long has it been since you started the practice? How long have you been working there? How long have you been running that?
So I just got here like a year and a half. Well, actually, it's gonna be 2 years now.
Nice.
Two, 2 and 3/4. I mean, 1 and 3/4 years.
Nice.
In September,
Nice.
it will be 2 years. It'll be
Wow.
2 years in September.
In the great big
So
city of
yeah,
New York City, or at least
yeah.
close to, running your own practice, Courtney. The people want to know, girl, are you married? Are you children? Well, tell the
No
people.
kids, no marriage, none of that, none of
Single,
that.
single, powerful, professional, beautiful young lady. Wow, congratulations, girl.
Thank you, thank you.
Spread the word, my
You're
friends.
very encouraging.
Spread the word. You got a
You're
cousin? You
hilarious.
got you got a brother? That's awesome, Courtney.
Man,
I know. I'm proud of you, girl. Keep rocking. Keep rocking. Hey, let's play a quick game, and then I wanna get into mental health. Let's dive in there. And as you're watching
yeah, yeah.
along, if you happen to have any questions, or you've been struggling with that challenge, maybe you're in ministry and you have some questions about it. Please feel free. We are with Dr. Courtney Ray, neuropsychology. So please post up some questions, ask us, talk with us. She's going to share with us so we can really kind of work through some of this stuff together. All right. If you happen to have a friend who is going through this kind of stuff, or a friend who's a minister, or a friend who's looking for help along these lines, just share it right now and tell them, hey, listen, pop on here, ask some good questions, because we've got an amazing young. I still consider you young, Corey. You get to be in the young
I
category
am. I am.
for a little while longer. We'll give you like 30 more days in the young category. But you actually are. But she actually is. We've got a young professional who's often popping right now. So please pop on in and talk with us. So before we play this game, Joyce Kyle says, "Hi, Courtney."
Hi.
Yeah. Hi, Joyce. Thanks for joining us. Thank you all for joining us. And a good friend of mine, Jamie Levy, posted this. She does not need to be validated by a man. Yes.
That's right, Jamie Levy. That's right.
She said she is enough. As Jamie's always putting it down, man. Just a head checking. She's okay, Jamie. You're right. Yeah. Yeah, no, I preach that to my daughter all the time, man. I'm like, listen, you don't need to wait in a tower. You don't need no prince to come fight your dragons. You can be a brave warrior yourself, girl. So
there you go.
Fine, people. I've been put in to check. My apologies. That was a good word, Jamie. Okay, well, let's play. Oh, James Kyle says hi too, Courtney. Just putting the word
Hi,
in there.
Dr. Kyle. I worked with Kyle in Southern California Conference. He was my senior pastor when I was in Tamron, when I first went to Central California.
Oh, that's fresh. I didn't know that. All right. I knew I liked the guy for a reason. James Kyle, man. So if you're all watching along, I'm going to talk about this man real quick. He's bivocational. He's a minister right now at the Vallejo Seventh-day Adventist Church found in Glendale, which is probably across the street from us right now. But he's also like a doctor, like a full-on doctor. And I don't know how he does that because I can't do one job correctly, let alone two jobs of like high magnitude. So the man is a genius. And he's always dropping like little gems here and there, and he's always like jabbing at people on the side, just saying stuff like, "Oh, okay, I like this guy. It's good." He did though, Courtney. I want to tell you, he stole my associate from my church, Derek Cruz. If you are watching, you sold me out for Dr. James Kyle. I'm a throw him under the bus.
He traded up, man. Just kidding.
Okay. Yeah, I see the hate. There's a lot of hate on this show, man. It's not a show. This is a tea time. People are hating on it. All right. So we're gonna play Love One, Leave One. Are you ready to go?
I'm not ready to go because you tried to explain this game to me, and I was like, I don't really understand. But okay, yes. Go ahead, tell me.
Okay, so I'll explain it to you. By the way, if you are watching along and you're laughing, you don't have to comment ha 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 as Pono Lopez just did. You don't have to put that. Nobody cares about that kind of stuff. All right, we don't want to see those kind of comments coming up. Okay, so and Katie said, "Ooh, he traded up." You don't trade up for me. You trade down. Okay, so this is how the game works, Courtney. We're gonna put 1 minute and 30 seconds on the clock. All right?
Am I gonna see this clock?
No, you're not. If you're watching on Facebook, which is 15 seconds behind our live time, it's gonna be going. There's a 1 minute and 30 seconds, and then I'm just gonna give you two things, and you have to choose which one you love, which one you leave. Okay? So I might say something like Starbucks or Coffee Bean. You'll have to say love Starbucks, which means from that point until eternity, Coffee Bean no longer exists in the world for you.
Okay.
Are you ready?
All right.
Okay.
Yes, I'll ever be.
All right. We're about to do this. Let me set up these questions. Breathe deep, Courts. Let's see how you do. If you're coming on, welcome on. We are with Dr. Courtney Ray. Clinical neuropsychology is her thing. Let's see if Love One, Leave One is. Here we go. Timer, go. Okay, Love One or Leave One? The Rock or Jason Momoa?
Man, Jason Momoa. Gotta love Jason Momoa.
You and my wife. Y'all, you guys should start a club, man. All right, Dave Chappelle or Kevin Hart?
Kevin Hart, actually.
Oh, okay. Latin food or Caribbean food?
Ooh, that's hard. It depends on what part of the Caribbean. It depends on what part of Latin America. Okay, I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this, but I love Latin.
Okay. All up for that. Okay, California or New York?
Oh, New York. Yeah.
Oh, why are we friends? That hurt. Okay. Let me see. Boys to Men or Take Six?
Ooh, take six.
Hmm. Okay. Dress shoes or sneakers?
What shoes?
Dress shoes or sneakers?
What? Actually, dress shoes. I don't really wear sneakers all that often.
Really? Okay. Okay. Let me see. The next one is. Ooh, my things are in the way. Del Taco or Taco Bell?
Taco Bell.
Babies or pets?
What kind of pets? I like babies. I like
Babies.
babies.
Okay. Shorts or skirt?
Skirt.
Skirts. Okay. We've got coffee or tea?
Tea.
Oh, we ran out of time. Good work. Okay, you made it through. I hope you guys played along and answered some of those questions. That wasn't so bad, Courtney.
Was it as bad as I thought? Was it as bad as I thought?
That's not that tough, right? But I do have to say, I could tell while we were playing this game how your intelligence affects you. Because some of these questions you just kind of give an answer to, and you took some time, girl. You weighed out the analytics of it. You're like, but if you see, Jason Momoa's hair is long, and if I dated him, I could cut it off if I got cold and made a jacket. But yeah, you're supposed to be popping off the answers, girl. Just give it out.
No, I didn't. You said for the rest of eternity. That's a big weight you put on my shoulders there, Icky.
You're right.
So
You're right.
I don't know. I couldn't just give you a split-second answer on those.
You're right.
Except
you're
for
right.
New York. New York always, but
Man, for real? Like, for real, New York, huh?
absolutely, man.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Okay, fine. I can respect that. Nobody's perfect. I get it.
Life.
Lakers or Knicks, Courtney?
Knicks. Even though you can
You see,
say
that
whatever
wasn't
you
a
want to
that wasn't a
say.
clinical answer. That there had a lot of bias and prejudice. Just putting that out there.
Hey, I have to go with the home team. I
Yeah, you do.
have to.
You're right. You're right. You're right. Let's talk mental health a little while. Is that
Now,
okay?
you asked me what to say. I don't know what I would have said. No, just kidding. Just kidding.
Let's talk mental health. And my friends, if you're just joining us, we are with Dr. Courtney Ray, PhD in clinical neuropsychology. I hope I spelled that right because I'm a pastor. I'm horrible at spelling and counting. Those are things that are just not my spiritual gift in life. But we want to talk about mental health as this pertains to your wheelhouse, actually. And if you are joining us or if you've just joined, feel free to leave some questions or comments or just come along with us and ask. And, if you've got some stuff that you've been working with in your situation, we could use it as a case study and we'll talk together. Courtney, tell us a little bit about mental health. I know this was just Mental Health Month literally 2 days ago. So like if we'd have done this 2 days ago, we'd have been right in theme, right? But in honor of May and how COVID hijacked our lives here pretty badly, let's talk about, first of all, what is mental health?
Mental health is just making sure that you are taking care of your well-being emotionally and psychologically. So a lot of people understand what physical health is, and they understand the reasons why we make sure we check up on ourselves, make sure that our heart is working well, our lungs are working well, all those other things physically. But your mind is important too. And so you need to make sure that you're emotionally stable, that you don't have any kind of things that are impeding your ability to concentrate or to do the thing optimally that you really enjoy doing. Just your quality of life, all of those things that are involved in your mental health. And making sure that people check that is
Right.
an important thing that a lot of people just take for granted,
Yeah, absolutely. Could you give us maybe 3 quick tips on something someone can do to keep check of their mental health? Maybe like 3 things that if you do this every day, my peoples, it'll help you keep in check with how you're doing with your mental health.
I think that one of the things that you should know is you should have sort of a baseline of how you feel about things and really being in touch with who you are, how you generally feel about just life in general. Is it
Right.
difficult for you to get up in the morning? Some people are just not morning people at all, right?
Right.
And some people just do better later on in the evening. But some people really, actually, I don't know these people, but some people really do like being up in the early morning
I
and
love the mornings.
do you really? Wow,
Yeah, I'm
I
a
don't
morning person.
but if you see a difference in kind of your general energy
Mm.
and see the way that you move or the way that you're motivated to do things or the things that you used to like to do, it takes
Mm.
more time and effort to do. That's one of the things that you should start to say, is something going on? Because even it could be a physical thing,
Right.
but if you are seeing a marked difference in the way that you see your motivation, that's one sign that maybe there's something that I need to kind of check on. So that's
Mm.
the other one that I would say is checking your appetite too. I know a lot of these things
Oh.
sound physical, but there's a lot of mental stuff in it. So if
Yeah.
you find yourself eating a lot more or eating a lot less, those are signs of that could be a sign of depression or a sign of anxiety because people tend to, when you're depressed, tend to like try to comfort themselves with different kinds of foods, try
Right.
to make sure that they're like feeling fulfilled with
Yeah.
actually filling their mouths.
Absolutely.
And sometimes people are just the opposite, where they just won't eat. They don't
They
just
lose
don't
their
feel
appetite.
those eat. So that's another thing that you should kind of monitor and check. If
Mm.
you're not like on a diet and you find that you are losing a lot of weight, it'd be like, okay, well, what's going on? Am I eating as much as I
Ooh.
used to? And then third, like check your relationships as well. So
Mm.
eye out on the way that you interact with other people because other people can be kind of a good gauge of how we are, how we're feeling because sometimes they reflect back to us
Mm.
what we feel. If you feel like you are a lot more irritated around people,
Yeah.
that might be a sign that something's up. Like if you're just on edge all the time
Mm.
and just confused with others, that might be something that you might want to look at. Or if you feel like really like you don't want to be despondent, you don't want to
Right.
be close to people anymore,
Wow.
and you want to kind of isolate yourself from people, that can also be kind of a sign as well. And the people who know us best, so our significant others, our children, our
Children,
parents, our
parents.
friends, all of
Yeah.
those people can kind of, if they know us, they can say to us, hey, listen,
Yeah.
is everything okay? Like, and giving people that permission to do that check for you and to
Wow.
ask you those questions. Not everybody is the person that you want asking questions,
Oh,
but
truth.
some
Mm.
people you should have at least one person who has permission in your life to ask those kinds of questions.
Yo, just those 3 tips, Courtney. You earned the money today. You earned your money. I mean, I'm not paying you, but if I did,
I'll be expecting my check in
you'd
the mail.
have you'd have earned it right there. So I want to review the last 3, and then I want to piggyback a question related to the 3 you just gave. But basically, number 1, check when you are mentally working best during the day and how you're feeling. Is that what you're saying? Number 2, you said check your appetite, how you're eating. Are you starting to eat more, eating less? Sarah actually put up stress eating is real, right? And
Yeah, no.
those kind of change of appetites really could be a signal that something is going on. And then number 3, have good close connections, relationships that you can check in with them with, and you can figure out where you're at and stuff like that. Is that correct?
Hmm.
I've got
Yeah,
2
and
follow up.
those are things that are kind of just those are just gauges. They're
Yeah.
not necessarily a full on. That's not going to tell you whether or not you're depressed or anxious,
Right.
but that's just something that you can kind of do to try to um, sort of monitor yourself a little bit to get to kind of know your baseline.
I mean, that makes complete sense actually. So you've created a few questions in my mind that I actually want to ask right now. So number 1, what do you call it when you're angry and irritated until you eat? What is that, like a mental issue of some sort? Because my
Is this a personal know
my
what to
children are
say.
like that, and so I don't know what to do with it. All right, we'll just move past that one there, Courtney.
Okay.
Uh, how do you how can someone, if they're kind of just assessing themselves, right, taking care of their mental health and asking the right questions, how can someone tell whether they're just going through a little bit of funk and whether they're dropping into something deeper? Like,
Okay.
is there something that individuals can kind of do, or is there something that markers?
Yeah. Yeah. So actually, when we're talking about mental health and saying that somebody is just kind of in a state,
Yeah.
like this thing is just situational versus whether or not it's like something more serious, we usually check for the 4Ds. We look for whether
Four
there
Ds.
is distress in their life,
Distress.
whether there is dysfunction in their life, whether there is deviance in their life, and whether there is danger in their life. And so I'll just talk briefly about. So distress is if you or someone you know is
Mm.
kind of worried about your behavior or your emotional state. So like I was saying, if you're irritable to the point where it's worrisome,
Mm.
like this is definitely not who you are. You're not this person typically. And this is becoming just kind of a habit where you're more angry or irritable or something like that. Or
Right.
maybe it can be any kind of thing. It's not just about depression or anxiety but any significant mood change that is disturbing and you're like, this is out of character for me. That's one thing that can be a warning signal. So if you feel yourself more anxious than usual or on edge or very tense, that, and it's just like, this is not who I am. This is not my character. This is not the way I usually operate. Then
Right.
that distress is one of the signs that there might be something more
Ooh.
serious. Also, dysfunctionality. So if you are not able to perform the duties that you usually do, so if you find yourself having a harder time at work or at school or harder time doing things around the house, and it's just your emotions are getting in the way of your ability to do things that you
Mm-hmm.
usually do. That dysfunction is a big sign as well.
Wow.
Also, if there is deviance. So, and this is more for when we have
Mm-hmm.
when something might be a state, like you said, like, oh, something happened, like let's say your goldfish died, right?
Right.
Your goldfish dies. That's a sad thing, right?
Yeah.
Everybody
Right.
gets sad about, my pet died,
Yeah.
and that is clearly something that people should feel badly about. But we don't like mourn goldfish for like a year, right?
Right.
We don't
Right.
we don't we're not
Right.
like draped in black. I can't get out of the house because my goldfish died,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So when I say deviance, what that means is deviation from what is normal or
Got
what
it.
would be expected. So if your behavior is different from what you would kind of think is reasonable for a normal situation, then that is also problematic.
Wow.
And the last one is danger. So danger
Danger.
is if you are in a place where you might harm yourself
Mm.
or harm someone else, then that's what we would say is a dangerous situation. So those four things: distress, dysfunction, deviance, and danger are what we'd say are the things that
Wow.
separate just a normal everyday experience of maybe sadness or fear and separating that into major depression
Mm.
or general anxiety or something like that.
That is so good. Listen, if you are just catching up with us right now, welcome on to Tea Time. We are hanging out with the informative, genius, smart, wonderful Dr. Courtney Ray. And she and I were just talking about mental health, how to do check ins. She gave 3 really good tips about checking in with yourself mentally. And then we talked about, we bridged over to what happens, how can you tell if it's something deeper? Courtney, you gave us the 4Ds, correct?
Mm-hmm.
It's distress,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm gonna need you to give me the other 3. I'm under distress right now, Courtney.
All
I
right.
need you to help me.
Distress,
Uh huh.
dysfunction,
Dysfunction,
deviance or deviation
deviance,
from the norm, and danger.
and
So,
danger. if you have somebody who's struggling through this, please make sure that you're aware of these things. Talk with them, get out, get some help. If this can be helpful to someone you know right now, share this, invite them to come on and check it out. This is really just really good, practical, tangible stuff. Courtney, obviously we've been hearing through the news that there has been a rise in suicide fatality as well as anxiety and depression during the COVID times. Can you talk to us about that, how it's affecting us, and is there anything that we can do to help mitigate some of that high level stress and pain and anxiety?
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I have a YouTube channel. So
Please
if you
share this
search,
YouTube channel.
yeah, I will. It's Array Psychological Assessments. I'll send you a link. That is, I actually did some tips, a video about how to kind of de-stress, just some very basic things if you feel like you are being overwhelmed. So doing things like relaxation, doing things to take care of your own mental well-being, where you are doing self-care is important. Sometimes as Christians, people have a little bit of anxiety around the word meditation, but meditation can, all the scary things that Christians have in their mind about meditation is not necessarily something that you need to worry about. Meditation is just the relaxation of yourself and centering yourself, doing deep breathing, things like that, mindfulness, which is making sure that you center yourself and you're paying attention to your surroundings, so that you are not, because sometimes what happens in stressful times is that anxiety causes us to think about things like outside of ourselves. And so we're worried about things that are going on in the world. We're worried about the things that will happen in the future. We're worried about just all these existential things. And so mindfulness is one of those things that is sort of asking you to just say, how are you in this moment? Like just really focusing on yourself right now instead of all the extraneous things. So that's another thing that is helpful to people. Also being willing to talk to someone else, talking to professionals. And a lot of times people don't want to go to a professional because they think that makes them crazy. The truth is that the vast majority of people in the world will experience some type of anxiety or depression during their lifetime.
Man, sometimes as Christians, man, we act like going to counseling is like going into a porn store, man. Like we be hiding from people. We be acting like, oh snap, I don't want nobody to know. Look, everybody needs counseling. Just keep it real right now. Yeah, I have gone to counseling a number of times, and I consider myself well balanced and happy. If you need to go, don't be ashamed. That's God gave people gifts. I mean, we just talked in the beginning about how this is Courtney's gift. God blessed her with this as her spiritual gift to help people. So don't be ashamed to go out and get some help. It's not porn. Just go. Sorry.
It's not. That should be the motto for counseling. Go to counseling.
Go to counseling.
It's not porn.
It's not a porn shop. Go to counseling. Okay, listen. I cannot believe we're at the 7-minute mark before we're over, and I haven't even gotten where we need to go yet. We just started. Girl, what happened?
I know.
Time. Okay, I'm going to ask one more quick question, and then I want to push past because we're running short in time here. How has the church not done a good job with mental health, and how can the church do some good things towards mental health, right? So, like, how have we failed in the past from your perspective, and what can we do to make a better future for all of our members? And I know it's a huge question, Court, but if you can push through it, and we'll keep moving. Sorry.
Well, what you could do, you could hire me to come to help you set up a mental health ministry. That's what you could do.
People donate. We need to get Courtney onto the West Coast.
I think that one of the things that the church has done that has been most detrimental to mental health is, like you said, sort of increasing the stigma, and in particular, making people think that if you need help in a mental health area, that you are not faithful, that you're not spiritual enough, that you're not Christian enough, that you just need to pray more, all that kind of stuff. And, we don't shame people for going to a cardiologist if they have heart problems, right?
Right. Right.
We don't shame people if you were in a car accident. They don't say, okay, well, we'll just pray for you and your whiplash and your broken bones. And
Mm.
no, they,
Right. You're right.
like, hey, let's get an ambulance and drive you to the hospital. That's what you do,
That's
right?
right. That's
And
right.
that's important because, yeah, Jesus did heal people physically. He allowed people who were blind to see, he allowed people who were lame to walk, and God can heal. And we believe that. But we still utilize people who are gifted in physical healing, and we go to physicians to help us with our physical issues. And in the same way, we need to destigmatize mental health as well, because it's the exact same thing. Just like you wouldn't tell somebody that they're not faithful because they have diabetes, you shouldn't tell somebody that you're not faithful
Ooh,
because you
preach.
have
Preach.
major depression. And so, so we
Mm.
just need to kind of eliminate the stigma, try to normalize the fact that people do go to mental health counselors and psychologists, psychiatrists, just like they go to your general practitioner, you take your kids to the pediatrician, you go to get your checkup at the gynecologist or the proctologist or whatever the case may be. And there's no shame in any of those things. And if we
That's right.
believe as a church in the health message,
Come on. Come
that's
on.
mental health, right? Not just physical health, but it's
Well,
mental health. So,
ooh, good.
so destigmatize, and be vulnerable and
Destigmatize.
open and let people know that
Yeah.
it's okay.
Ooh, I like that. I like that. Thank you. We got 4 minutes. How did this happen? I wanted to get over and talk just a little bit about what it means to be an African American female in our country today, and race relations. We are so short on time. I was looking forward to this. I probably should have started us off here. But before I do, I don't want to ignore anyone's questions online. So Jamie said, are those mindfulness actions good for maintaining good mental health and not waiting until there is a major issue, the ones that you shared?
Yes, yes, yes. Don't wait until you have you're just at the brink of collapsing to put those things into practice. Do them all the time and help yourself so that you have practice good mental hygiene is what we would say.
Okay, so we've got 3 minutes, but I'm going to go over time. I'm going to ask you two questions. Number one, our African American community sees themselves in every innocent life taken. Can you talk about mental health and about how PTSD affects a person of color every time they witness this around them?
Mhm.
Helping maybe those of you who don't understand this because it's not your narrative, or those of you who have not lived in these kind of areas, or have not been blessed with such great pigmentation. Maybe you haven't had the opportunity to really recognize the story, but can you speak to that a little bit, right? To a person's mental health and the PTSD it causes someone to see
Right.
themselves in innocent lives that are taken on a regular basis.
So, so I'm gonna do a little bit of neuroscience here.
Yeah, do it. We're
So,
with you. We're with you.
or when you have a stress response, when you're in a stressful situation or anything like that, your body kicks in with your sympathetic nervous system where you start with the fight or flight, right? So if you're
Yeah.
getting chased by a bear, you either want to fight it off or you want to run away. So it's good. That stress response is a positive thing because it motivates you to move and to help you survive.
Yeah.
There's also a secondary stress response called the HPA axis, which is the hypothalamus, the pituitary gland, and the adrenal glands. And when that axis is turned on, you also will get neurotransmitters that flood your system in the same kind of way to help you motivate you to deal with stress. And a little bit of stress is good to deal with and motivate you to get over a problem. Too much stress is bad, and it can be very paralyzing. And chronic stress is when that response, that HPA axis, is just in overdrive. It doesn't stop. What should happen is after whatever the stress response is, whatever the fear is, whatever the stressful situation is, after that thing has passed, your system should kind of reset.
Yeah.
But if you are in a state of chronic exposure to trauma, that cycle continues on and on and on. And those neurotransmitters that are flooding your system, including cortisol, have an effect where it breaks down your actual body cells. Your physical cells in your body get deteriorated little by little when they are exposed to this stress in a constant way. And so it's just unhealthy, not just from a stress perspective, not just a mental perspective, but from a physical perspective as
Absolutely.
well. And you can have that stress response not only if you are involved in something stressful, but if you witness somebody else being involved in something stressful. Or so it's what we call vicarious trauma. So you're looking at it and you're seeing it happen. So for people who are Black, in case you didn't know, I'm Black. So when we're in these situations where we're constantly being witness to these different things that are happening, where people are being murdered, people are being harassed, people are being disenfranchised, and they look like us, that is something that evokes that stress response in us in the same way as it would be. Even if it's not me,
Absolutely.
it's
Yeah, of
still
course.
a situation that affects me. And continually having that, plus the fear of when you go out, could it be me? Will it be me?
Right.
Would it be me?
Right.
Those are all things that put people of color in a hypersensitive or hypervigilant mode. And that chronic stress breaks down our cells on a physical level. And we wind up with more health problems, more issues, not just physically, but also mental health issues that go undiagnosed. And there's sort of this myth about how Black people are strong,
Right.
and we are,
Yeah.
but we're not unbreakable.
Yeah.
And so
Right.
we need the ability to speak to our pain and to be able to say that, hey, this is something that is affecting us.
Yeah.
So that we're able to kind of heal together. Because if we are in denial, or if we are not given the opportunity to share our voice and to express our pain, then all of that compounds the problems, compounds the issues. And so, when you see someone getting murdered, like in the case of George Floyd, it's not just affecting him.
Absolutely.
It's not, but it is literally killing all of us as well, because not only is the threat that this might be us, but the empathy that we have and the connection of our community is such that we all feel that same pain with his family. Even though I don't know him personally, it's the same thing, And so we have to really understand that. And sometimes, especially when you're talking about this with people who are not Black, they might feel like, oh, they want to intellectualize it and talk about it as a very distant, hypothetical kind of a thing. But for us who are in the Black community, it is very real and
It's not
tangible
hypothetical
thing.
at all. Absolutely. Yeah.
And so people
I
sometimes, yeah, go ahead.
I think in our conversations with each other in our dialogue, that piece is where we miss oftentimes, right? Like, because there's a group of individuals, maybe there's a large group of individuals that this is really just hypothetical. So being able to experience and understand that feeling, to them it's completely just it's foreign, it's alien to them. This is, come on guys, I mean, like, because it's true for all of us. When you talk to someone about their issue and you've not experienced it, in your mind you're like, just get over it, man. And that's towards anything, right? Like, if you've never experienced heartbreak, you're like, man, it ain't nothing, come on, man. Intellectually you know how to deal with that, until you get into a relationship and you get heartbreak, and then your thing is, you just don't understand how I feel. Something as superficial, something not as superficial, but something as light as that is a decent example of going through something so traumatic and someone being completely callous towards it because
dismiss.
so dismissive over these kind of issues. Courtney, that's been a phenomenal, smart conversation. Thank you, and you have, of course, have done so well. I've got to invite you to come back so we can talk just a little bit more
Before
over some of this stuff.
we end, I do want to say something just for those
Yes,
people
absolutely.
listening who might have like Black people who are in their lives who are going through different things right now, especially
Yes.
those who might have Black pastors or teachers or other people who are in helping professions.
Yeah.
Um, so kind of tying all of our conversation in, um, sometimes people who are in helping professions feel like they have to kind of keep a stiff upper lip. They have to be strong for everybody else, everything like that. And when we have pastors and teachers and psychologists who are working in this capacity of helping, sometimes we might even feel like we need to hold it together.
Mm.
And just a couple weeks ago, well, not a couple weeks ago, like a few days ago, so I am the president of the Society of Black Neuropsychology, just so that you know.
Yeah, stop it,
We
girl.
were we were doing a webinar about COVID. This had been planned for a long time ago, and as the presenters, we were talking about, well, how we were going to present and the order that we were going in. One of the individuals said, should we say something? Should we say something about this situation with George Floyd and with Breonna Taylor? And so we said, yeah, we should.
Mm-hmm.
And someone in the comments was like, this is the first professional seminar that I've been to that someone has
Wow.
acknowledged it. And
Wow.
it's like we sometimes expect for people to just go on as usual, and
Mm.
that's a professional thing to do, right?
Mm.
And we don't recognize that the people who are in your lives, the people who are the health professionals, the people who are the pastors, the people who are your counselors, those people are still people, and
Right.
they have pain as well. And like I said, so Society for Black Neuropsychology, and I'm going to finish up. So Society for Black Neuropsychology was working on a statement that we wanted to put out in acknowledgement of what's been going on.
Very good.
And for me, that I write
Yeah.
kind of very, and that for me is a cathartic kind of thing that helps me to process emotionally. And so when we talked about it, I was like, yeah, I will write up a draft, quit that same night. I wrote up something and I was like, put it all down on paper, and I sent it out. And, if you're a part of an organization, you have a team with you. So you know that when you put out a statement, it's not just your statement,
Yeah.
it's the statement of the team.
Yep.
So you have to get consensus with everybody. Everyone's eyes have to be on it,
Mercy.
And
Yeah.
so like my draft isn't just my words alone.
Right.
So I sent it out to my team for them to read it so that they could give their input, give their edits, all that kind of stuff. And it was a few days was going by, and some of them were just like, I just feel like I can't handle it right now. These are professional psychologists.
Right.
But for them, for me, writing it out was therapeutic.
Yeah.
But for them, just able to take a break and just step back was important. And they were like, I'm going to have to come to this a little bit later. And so I didn't feel like we needed to rush to be the first person to put out a statement or anything like that, because, we needed time.
Yeah,
Our
exactly.
team needed to process that. And I think
Right.
that it's really important for Black people in whatever profession you're in to understand it's okay to take time. It's okay to acknowledge that you are in pain as well. It's okay to say, I can't engage in this right now, to step back. Don't let anybody make you feel guilty for not,
Yeah.
go full steam ahead and stuff like that, because we're all being affected, and it's
Yeah.
not less professional, it's not worse or anything like that.
Especially
So,
as it tends to trend, right? We've got people who are quite courageous on their social media, but are not doing much in life. And when they all start posting, it causes a sense of anxiety in you, like, I got to post something too. I don't want them thinking I'm one way or another, right? And in reality, big shout out to Blackout Tuesday. Maybe it's good for you to just step back a little bit. right? And tune in to yourself, tune into your community, ask what good things could we do to help reconcile each other and our inner being. Yeah, you're so right. Courtney, I know that we've gone over time already, my friends, but I do want you to please give us your YouTube channel, put it out there for us so we know what it is, please.
So it's Array Psychological Assessments. So it's ARRAY,
Uh-huh.
psychological, and then assessments, ASSESSMENTS.
So full word assessment,
Uh-huh.
is it with an S at the end?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna just throw this up on the screen so you all can see that. That is her her channel on YouTube. Go check it out, man. Courtney's just rocking and doing good things in the world, and she's trying to put positivity in there, and she's just smart. Courtney, I do want to close. I keep saying that. Sorry, guys. It's just we've got her on here. Courtney, would you join us again sometime?
Absolutely,
Cool,
absolutely. I'm
cool.
just looking to make sure that you got it right. You did.
Okay, cool. I know. I'm a pastor. I don't smell. So if it's not, I think Long Beach put it up in the comments. Would you just say a few words to that young black girl out there who's like thinking about what she's going to become? Maybe to that collegiate who's sitting in his room considering what he's going to do with himself. Maybe it's a young professional who's just moving into their own space and trying to figure out life. Could you speak some encouragement and inspiration to them right now, or even just to somebody who's at home, who's been at home and doesn't know what to do with themselves? Can you speak some encouragement into them?
Well, I'm just going to encourage you, whoever you are, to really find out what it is that will be the best use of your gifts into the world. Um, the one thing that I would say is don't let anybody else project what they think you need to do or discourage you because they don't think that you should do that.
Ooh.
So your path, whatever it is that God has put on your heart, be very clear about that so that no matter what kind of discouragement you might get and no matter what kind of encouragement to veer off from that you might get, you know already that God has designed you to go in one direction and to do that thing because you are certain that that is the calling that you have. So I would just really, really encourage people to, whatever it is, be so sure in the fact that it is God's call for your life and do that thing.
Wow, that's phenomenal. Thanks, Courtney. If you're out there and you're watching and God has put a dream on your heart or if he's called you, be faithful to that calling, be faithful to that passion, be faithful to what he has in store for you and follow it and reach for it and go for it. Don't just lay back and let the world pass you by. God's got some wonderful things in store for each of you. I have spent my hour with Dr. Courtney Ray, and I'm so thankful to you for your time. We're going to bring her back. Somebody put up there, part 2, Dr. Courtney Ray, next week. Not quite that soon, but let's definitely bring her back. So I'll just say it. One of the things that I want to ask, we're not going to talk about it, but I'd love to ask, what are people, people with privilege or white people or people that are not black? What are some things they could do, especially during the climate of our world around us, to grow and to help begin some reconciliation? I know you got some great thoughts on that. So next time around, just keep that in mind. Next time around, that's what we're going to talk about.
www.apamind.com. Okay?
Say it again?
So that that's also the website. www.apamind.com. MIND. So
Awesome.
that's the website. Thank you so much for having me, Ikki.
Courtney, when we come off, would you just follow up on some of those comments and answer any questions that we may have missed?
Sure.
Thanks, my friends. I'm glad you joined Courtney Ray and I today for our Tuesday tea time that neither one of us are drinking, just water and lemonade. It's been
no tea. It's hypocrisy.
You're right. God bless you guys. We hope you have an awesome week. We'll see you next week when we're hanging out with Jacqueline Jewell. Okay? We'll see you then, my friends. Have a great and blessed week.